There were times like in the locker room where I used to get like pinned against the wall and be like, go back home. I know this is maybe bad, but like I never looked at Lebanon as my home. I still don't. Honestly, your podcast made me start thinking about it.
We're not allowed to talk about it. Women start climbing the ladder. She takes off the hijab. How was that phone call like?
You know, I never talked about that phone call. So I looked at Medina. I had her on a Thursday. On Saturday, I looked at her. I said, Medina, on Monday, we're going to work.
Do you think there's a lot of regret in it? Do you ever think about, they say, hanging up the jersey and just being with the kids full time? Does that cross your mind at all?
Yeah, well, I don't know why, Jaffa, like literally I have goosebumps right now, but like,
before we start today's episode, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day and giving this podcast a listen. And I also wanted to remind you that the only way this podcast will ever grow is with your support and with your help. So subscribe to the podcast, like this video, and now let's get the show started. Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب مدينة القدس العربية.
Hey Dewnya, how are you?
good, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Who is Dewnya? Give us an introduction.
That's a good question.
I mean, you're a CEO, you're a lawyer, you're a mother, you're a wife,
Yes.
you're a daughter,
Sister.
a sister.
Dunya's just a simple girl living in a complicated world, let me tell you. Honestly, I'm just like a free thinker, big-hearted. I love to give. I love life. I love joy. Attorney, right? Entrepreneur. I definitely identify as an entrepreneur now. But first and foremost, a mom and a wife and a daughter and a sister. It's the most important thing. I'm a teammate. I love my team. I'll pour into them. I'm a Muslim.
Big one.
I'm American.
Yeah. So Not From Here, a podcast for people that are not from here. And you're the first guest, and I want it to be a tradition that whenever someone comes on, they tell us, how did you end up here in America? How did you end up far away from home? What's the story?
So first of all, so honored to be the first guest. Like, honestly, blessed, honored, and like, that means a lot. How did I end up here? I was born here. So I was born here. My parents are originally from Lebanon.
Okay. So how did your parents come here then?
And my parents came here pretty young. So my mom was about 9 years old, and my dad was about 18. So my parents lived a lot of their life here in America. My grandparents came over, left everything back home, like many of our grandparents or our parents, and they came to build a better life for us. And I remember my jiddo, Allah yarhamu, but my jiddo was so adamant on education with us. Like, it was so instilled in us, like, get an education, be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, right? It was so important to him. And then to see kind of what's important to my parents, and then to kind of see how it evolves on what's important to me and like this generation now. It's very interesting dynamic.
It's what all our parents wanted us to be, a doctor or a lawyer, stay in school, do something with your degree.
Because they came here and they had to start from the ground up, right? So they figured they'll build the foundation. So like my jiddo ended up working in the factories, right? And then my dad started his own businesses. So that's where my entrepreneurial spirit comes from, is watching my dad open up businesses, seeing the failures, seeing the successes, and being able to like latch onto that story and try to make it better. But then you had to complete your education. Like you had to get that degree. And that was, I remember my jiddo at my graduation party, after law school, it was like literally the proudest moment of his life. And he had like a huge picture of me and him, like with my robe and everything on. And it was like one of the things that he always talked about. Like, this was the proudest moment for him, you know? And for me, it was a proud moment, but it wasn't like, it didn't have that much substance or meaning. It was more it came from them being proud of me.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's why he came here in the first place,
Yeah.
is for you to graduate and finally become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I want you to say why you became a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically a personal injury lawyer.
Okay.
Like, why go into personal injury specifically?
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, like ever since I was 6 years old. So why? Because I was probably the most combative person in my household. I would always defend my older sister to my parents, and they nicknamed me the lawyer in the family from a very young age, and it just stuck. And it was one of those things that, like, my jid would call me the muhammiya, my parents would call me the attorney, and khalas, like, it is what it is. But going into law school, I never wanted to be a personal injury attorney. It wasn't. I had 25 practice areas on my list of things I wanted to do, and personal injury was not one of them. I wanted to be a sports agent or a corporate attorney, something like that. And I left school. I graduated law school, finished, took my bar exam, and right around that time, my brother got into a really bad car accident. He couldn't walk for about 6 months. And watching that process, first, like, my brother's laid up. My dad wasn't here. He was actually back home visiting his brothers that he hasn't seen forever, pretty much. And he was there for 4 days, and I had to make the phone call to my dad so he wouldn't hear it on the news.
How was that phone call like?
You know, I never talked about that phone call. So I'm like that person in my family that kind of like handles the harder things. Like, you know, like that conversation had to be had. Yeah. That tough conversation.
Someone had to make the call.
Someone had to make the call. And that person was going to be me. Like, there was no doubt that that person was going to be me. So I called him, and just like I do even with my clients now, is I'm like, hi, Baba, like, calm voice, right? At this point, like, we know they're going to operate on him. We don't really know the situation too much.
So you don't know how bad the accident is at that point?
Yeah, like, we know it's, like, we know he's okay, like, but it was scary, right? They had him hooked up to, like, so his hip and his ankle were fractured on opposite sides. They couldn't operate on him right away. Mainly now I know, because the insurance, they didn't know if the insurance was going to pay, but the second they knew, they didn't tell us they were going to fix him. He was in so much pain. He was, like, hooked up to this bag, like this weight bag that was holding, like, his leg together. It was, like, the scariest thing, and anytime anybody would touch it, it would, like, vibrate and, like, cause immense pain to him. He didn't want to be on pain meds because he's like, I don't want to go down that road. He's seen friends that went down that road, and he didn't want to, so he was trying to tough it out. So I call my dad, and I'm like, Dad, everything's okay, but, you know, Ali was in an accident. Inshallah, he's going to be okay, but he needs surgery. And inshallah, they're going to operate on him on Monday, and everything's going to be fine. So I had to tell him, because it was literally at that point, like, all over the news, social media, like, so fast, right? And I know it's going to get to Lebanon. Sometimes it gets to Lebanon before we even know, right? So hearing him on the other side of that phone, it was, like, so hard, right? Because he also knows me. He also knows I can keep things very calm. So he's probably in his mind assessing, like, this is Dewnya telling me, and then, you know.
There's a reason Dewnya is the one making the phone call.
So he ends up coming, finding, like, the next flight out and coming, and, like, that was a whole thing, because he ended up having, like, a panic attack on the airplane, you know. It was hard. It was so hard. The thing about, like, car accident victims is, like, they're in so much pain and their life is changed, but, like, the whole family's life changes. So when I saw that, and then I saw, like, literally every nurse come in, oh, do you have a claim number yet? I'm like, are you seriously asking that question right now? Like, just take care of my brother.
So you knew that, like, you kind of knew because you were preparing to become a lawyer, but so you kind of knew that they really needed a case number to start operating. But how did your parents, like, when you looked at your mom and your dad, they're sitting in the hospital and they don't know why your brother's not being operated on, and they're seeing their son unconscious. How do you talk to them about it? Like, because, like, نحن Arab, you know, like, they're gonna be like, no, he's in the hospital, why is he being operated on?
So that at that moment, I didn't really know, Jafar, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, I knew they needed it. They needed this paperwork. They needed these things. But I was like, do you really want me to handle this right now while I need to be by his bedside if he needs me? You know, I don't want to be away. But it was more like, we got this. Let's just figure it out. Call the insurance, get this handled. Finally got the claim number and everything. It took a couple days to get everything like run through where they processed it and knew that was valid and all of that. But I'm telling you, the second they did that, they put us up in like a villa suite in the hospital. Like you could fit 100 people in that room. That's how big it was. So they took us from a 3-person room. Like we've all been in that scenario where you have 3 people. You could literally, one person is like scooch. They took us from that room, put us up in like a villa suite, operated on him like that second, right? And the whole dynamic changed. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like healthcare isn't about that. It shouldn't be about that, right? And then that was like a huge reality hit to me. And then I said, you know, subhanAllah, like there's a reason that this happened right at the pinnacle moment where I'm looking for my first job as an attorney. Like my goal in life is to help people, as cliche as it sounds. How do I serve? How do I give back? How do I impact? And this is basically like a sign from Allah. Like this is how you can help. So that's why I went into personal injury. And then I loved everything about it. I loved the courtroom setting. I loved advocating for my clients. Like I literally loved every piece of it. And I'm like, that was the blessing that came from all of this, was that now I have a career that I truly love. I'm impacting and serving people that I really like have a connection to. And I think that's so important in this field.
But how do you grow from, okay, I figured out I want to be a personal injury attorney, to having a multi-million-dollar law firm?
Yeah.
Like how does that happen? And for a woman to do that, you know, it's like,
Grit, man.
and how long has the whole law firm been open?
9 years.
9 years. So yeah, 9 years ago, I don't think it was easier for a woman to jump into that space.
Yeah. So women first, Muslim, third, Hijabi, like noticeably Muslim. There's so many different layers there. For me, now I reflect. Now I reflect and I say, oh, this is why this door didn't open up. Or maybe this is why this door opened up. But in the process, I never thought about it. And I think that was a good thing and a bad thing, to be honest. Like it was a good thing because if somebody was, you know, disrespectful to me or racist to me, I never looked at it like they're being racist. I'm just like, man, you need to have a better day. You know, you're just like having a bad day.
So you weren't perceiving it at that moment?
Time. Yeah. Not the time. I mean, there were like blatant moments of like racism that you couldn't deny, right? So even before I was an attorney, I played college basketball. I used to travel for basketball in high school. And this is post 9/11. So during that time period, I was going into like real rural areas. You know, we live in Dearborn. Yeah. The dynamic is different here. Our challenges are different. We have a crazy ton of challenges. We could talk about those, but like crazy ton of challenges here. But being visibly Muslim isn't one of them in our own city. But like when you go outside and then you have your culture here and then your culture shock out here and you come back and you're like, whoa. Like there were times like in the locker room where I used to get like pinned against the wall and be like, go back home. And I'm like, back home? I am home. I'm so, like that statement, I don't know how many times like I've heard it, go back home. It shook me because I know this is maybe bad, but like I never looked at Lebanon as my home. I still don't. Like, it's where I come from. Like, I appreciate it. I love it, and I love the people there, and I want to help and serve in whatever I can do to do it. But it's not my home.
Understandable.
You know? So they would tell me go back home. I'm like, I literally visited there one time. Like, this is my home. Where am I going? I'm so confused. Where would you like me to go? If I can't be here, and it's not really my home, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
So for me, that statement, like if there was one statement throughout that like tenure of like my basketball career at post 9/11, because previous to that, I feel like people were a lot more accepting and very different. Like we've been through channels in our life. Like if you break it down, it's very interesting. But like that period, I was like, that was so confusing to me. It still is. I'm like, what do you mean go back when I am home? Like I am home. Or when people ask me the question, when I'm like out, where are you from? My first answer is always Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
Where are you from? And they're like, no. Like, where are you from? And I'm like, where are you from? They're like, Pittsburgh. And I'm like, cool, you're from Pittsburgh. I'm from Michigan. Where are you really from? You know? And I always say, my parents are from Lebanon.
But I'm from here.
My parents are from Lebanon. I always said that, and I never thought about it. And honestly, your podcast made me start thinking about it. Like, why do I say that? My parents are from Lebanon. Like, am I not from Lebanon? I am, but like that identity crisis, like I don't really identify.
Yeah. So the thing is that you say that and you were born here. So it's kind of like we leave there knowing, like, I'm on the plane coming here, I know that Lebanon's home. When I get here, it's still home. As I go through my days and as the years pass, I'm like, my life is now here. Like, you know, like, where do you differentiate, you know? Can you be from both places? Because after 3 years here, 4 years here, I just hit my 5 years here. You go back there and it's so different too, you know? So you're like, okay, I was raised here, but am I really from here? You know, like I can't relate to anyone here. And like, I love the family, I love the friends, the vibe, like Lebanon's beautiful. But at the same time, you look back and be like, but the friends I like hang out with every day aren't here. Like they live there, you know? Like my car, like I don't even have a car. Like my car is there. My work is there, you know? My house, the way I like it, is over there, you know? So you get caught up. And that's me living there. I can only imagine how different of because my identity crisis is going to be a little bit different than yours, right? Because you were born here. And you said before leaving Dearborn was in your head the only place that you were from, really, right?
I was at a conference the other day at Harvard, and one of the speakers was talking about people who leave back home. We'll use those words, right? And whatever that means, but people who leave back home. So say, for example, somebody like yourself, you leave to come here to go to school. A lot of people do that, right? They leave, they come here, they go to school. The problem is nobody's going back. So the point is, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go, I'm going to get educated, I'm going to open up my mind, my heart, my world to something different. I'm going to bring back those ideas and everything back home. I'm going to make that place way stronger than it is. And nobody ends up going back.
No one goes back.
And like I have goosebumps right now thinking about it because it was like really powerful. I was like, what if the people that had that mindset came, did that, but actually went back? Where would our countries be right now? How far ahead would they be? Because honestly, they would be the leaders, they would be the innovators, they would be the people that actually change the country. Hopefully dismantling any corruption and all of that, right? There, you're in a much better state to go back there and be the head of the parliament than anybody there, right? Because you're from there, you came here, you open up your world, your experiences, and nobody goes back. So like, how do you, that was like a huge discussion, how do you change that where you literally embed it in the people that are coming here to go back that actually do end up going back? And I think it's hard because it is a different world. It's a different world, and then you get kind of like, maybe not comfortable, but you get comfortable with being uncomfortable here and the growth that happens and how fast it happens here.
You get caught up real quick.
You get caught up.
Yeah, time moves fast here, you know? You don't have time to think, like, sit and think, okay, like, right now, because moving back is a whole other, like, it's a project, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, I know. It moves too quick to a point where, I can't go back, you know? Like, I can't even think about this right now. Like, what are you talking about? I already have, like, 10 different things going on here.
Yeah. So I think maybe because like so much time has passed, and we know that realistically speaking, those who come here are probably not going to go back. I think we need to shift the conversation from that and shift it to, okay, how do we come here and how do we still advance our countries back home? Like right now I'm thinking, how do we advance the Middle East? How do we help our people there that are haram? Like they're fu'ara, like they have nothing, like it's so sad. Like, and one of the things that like we've been talking about, and like we just made our first hire, I'm so excited about this, by the way, this just happened this week, is like we hired our first virtual assistant there in Lebanon, and we're looking at like Turkey and Iraq and like the Middle East to be able to hire people there that are gonna help us grow and advance our companies. We're actually helping the economy there, slowly but surely, right? And like, can we build incubators there? Can we like build some of the things that we're working on here? Or like even, like I have 50 virtual assistants in Manila, in the Philippines, right? I'm like, they're amazing. And there's such a blessing, so integrated within our team. Beasts, amazing. And I'm like, why don't we take the same concept and do it in our own countries as well?
Help those 50 people from our countries.
And grow it and hopefully spread the word, and inshallah more employers will do the same and whatnot. It's a global world now.
Yeah.
So I think shifting that conversation to be like, maybe we don't have to technically go back home, but how can we help and serve and impact and let our country be somewhere where we're proud of it, and somewhere where like the pride is always there, but somewhere where we're comfortable going back. Mm-hmm. If I want to say I want to go do the last 10 years of my career there, I want to be comfortable knowing that I can go there and the mindset is going to be something different, and I'm going to have the opportunities.
You're going to have the resources and all of that. That was the promise that I gave my mom. I was like, I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to come back and I'm going to make Lebanon a better place. And I don't think I'm going back. I don't think I'm going back.
Does she know that? Yeah.
Yeah, she does. She probably doesn't want me to go back either at this point. Yeah.
You know, it's hard because like as parents, like I know even if I wanted something for my child, if I miss them so much or if I wanted them by me, I'm going to do what's best for my child. So they're always there putting you ahead of them, right? They miss you, they love you, they want you around, but they're like, we see the trajectory and it doesn't look good. Like
you spoke about being a Hijabi lawyer.
Yes.
How do you translate that to your day-to-day life? I'm Hijabi lawyer.
Mm-hmm. I think the hijab physically is one thing, obviously visible, right? But the way you carry yourself is the bigger piece of it, I think. So I'm constantly checking myself, right? Constantly, daily, hourly, almost sometimes by the minute, checking myself, checking my behaviors, because it's a whether I like it or not. So this is the thing about wearing the hijab that like people don't, it's for me, right? Only God can judge me, or 100%. Nobody is judging your intention. But once you put the hijab on, you're wearing the flag. It is what it is. It's like walking down the street with a Palestinian flag on your back. You're wearing the flag. Whatever flag you choose to wear, if you're wearing it visibly, you are representing that sect or that group of people. So when you're wearing the hijab, you are representing Muslims, whether you like it or not. Whether you knew you were bearing that way or not. And this is like also like something that I'm constantly like thinking about, checking myself on is, what if I run into somebody who this is the first Muslim they ever met? Okay? And whether we like it or not, people stereotype and people are biased. We all do it. It's innate. Like you can't, right? People are going to stereotype the entire Muslim religion based on me because I'm the only Muslim they know. I remember in law school, we had a lot of people from the South at our law school. So a lot of people, like I was literally the first Muslim that they've ever met. They just never had any Muslims in their town or community or anything like that. So the only image they had of us was what they saw on CNN, Fox News, or whatnot. That's it. That's it. Literally, there's no other exposure to no fault of their own. It is what it is, right? So I remember one of my friends, and we became really good friends, and we're still really good friends. He looked at me and he said, man, Muslims are really cool. So opposite of what I thought. And I said, see what you just did there? Like, you stereotyped an entire religion based on me. What if I'm not? What if I'm not a true reflection of what Islam is? Then you think right now, oh, Muslims are cool, Muslims are generous, Muslims are this. But like, what if that's not really what it is? Here, it was a positive connotation. But sometimes it's a negative connotation, right? So if you're in a car and you road rage on the guy next to you and you're the first one, look at all these Muslims. They're so angry. They're so angry. And then you just add on to the negative connotation you have. So for me, it's literally a reflection of, and I'm not great at it, and I'm always trying to get better. It's like one of my struggles, my internal jihad, my internal struggle every day is, how do I get better? How do I become a better Muslim so I can be a better reflection of what the religion stands for, because whether I like it or not, I am a reflection of it to a lot of people. So that's kind of how I deal with it in my daily life. I mean, work in progress, boss.
Of course, we're all works in progress. But you said whether you like it or not, you're representing the flag. But in society, more and more you see this, and maybe we're not allowed to talk about it or say it publicly, but you see it when women start climbing the ladder. One of the first things, like, that's how you know she's climbing the ladder. She takes off the hijab. I'm not generalizing, but even you see it. You probably see it more than I do.
It's not easy. Okay. And if it was, I don't think Allah would reward us, inshallah. Like, I hope we will be rewarded.
In what ways is it not easy? Where did you see the struggle come?
So I can tell you, I'm involved in a lot of different groups, a lot of different masterminds, a lot of different spaces. Let's talk specifically law, okay? I was literally the only, at the time, Hijabi litigator that I knew. Like, and I say that because I'm sure there were more, but when I would walk into a courthouse, at the time we weren't Zoom, so everyone goes to court on Fridays. Like, Wayne County was packed with people, right? Thousands of attorneys going in there, all of the litigators. And I look around, and there's mainly like white men, some white females, a few other diversities you'd have, but literally I was like the only Hijabi ever, like for years, going into the courthouse. Now you're seeing it, but now you're seeing it on Zoom. It just feels a little different, but still so exciting. I'm like, yeah, go. Hijabi power. But you are, if you're not okay being different in those spaces, and you're not okay being looked at as the, I don't know, I'll use outcast as a word, but I never looked at it like that, so it's hard, but I could see how they can see it like that. And if you want to conform, it's very difficult to conform. Even if you talk the same and litigate the same, and it's hard to conform. So you have to truly be okay and be comfortable with that. So like for me, I love it. And again, like Allah has blessed me with this. I think you can shift your mindset if you're not, right? Like it's a mindset shift. But like for me, I look at the hijab as a platform. I own that platform. I don't care. You know how like when they say, oh, they only asked you to be on this panel because you're like the trophy Muslim? I'm like, cool. Let me be on the panel. Let me own the space. Let me learn from the other panelists. Let me give value where I can. Let me, whatever. Like, it's giving me a stage. It's literally giving me a stage that I would have never probably had because I'm not that smart. There's no reason for me to have that stage compared to a counterpart, right? So, no, I'll take the stage and let me run with it. Let me learn. Let me grow. Let me enhance. Let me use it.
And take advantage of it. if they said, okay, we need a Muslim representative, and they chose you just, let's say, out of pity because they wanted a Muslim up there.
I'll take it.
Do something with it, right?
100%. And I don't look at it like, oh, they only chose me because of that, right? But I think what people forget, and it makes me sad. I know I shouldn't care. Like, they're like, why do you care? Because it does make me sad because, like, you climbed up that ladder. You climbed up that ladder, like, wearing it, owning it. And by the way, I really feel like Allah opened up those doors for you because of it. So you're kind of like taking all of that for granted and thinking that you climbed up the ladder because of your own self. I promise you, you're not that smart. You're not that cute. You're not that. Like, I promise we're just not. Like, we are one of 6 billion people. So if Allah is giving you a platform to succeed and grow, what are you going to do with it? Use it for good. Like, now you have a stage. Now you have an amazing stage to make such an amazing impact. And by the way, I'm not saying that you have to, like, be a hardcore advocate on your stage or anything. No, just be you. But you're wearing it, and now it's, like, just correlates, whether you like it or not, right? And the impact you make is so, like, immense. But, like, then the impact, the counter impact that you make is sad because then everyone feels like you reach a certain point. Like, I know a lot of the girls that I talk to that are younger that think about, like, putting it on. They're like, oh, no, but if you reach a certain point, you can't do it anymore because the trend, I don't know if it's I don't even know what the right words to use.
Let's call it a trend.
Let's call it a trend. Because the trend is once you hit a certain cap, then it comes off and now you fly, right?
That was your ceiling. That's what couldn't let you go farther.
But it's not. It's not your ceiling. It's not. It's literally what got you there, and it will continue to get you to the next level and the next level if your mindset is right and you own it and you own who you are and you own what you believe in and you own what you care about. And God is giving you a gift, and, like, He's calling you for something greater. Like, do it in your own spaces, but don't lose sight of who you are in the meantime, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned those young girls that talk to you, right? And you're successful, and you're a Muslim, and you're a Hijab. So a girl comes up to you and asks, and she's a Hijab, and she's struggling with it, and, like, in her field, whatever field that is, she goes, Dunya, I have it on, but I feel like if I take it off, it's better. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. I'm making a lot of mistakes. What do you tell them?
I tell them it's not that. Let's talk about why you're not excelling, why you're not succeeding at what you're doing. And I guarantee you it's not because of the hijab. I guarantee you it's because you're not experienced in the space. Maybe your emotional intelligence needs to be, like, leveled up. Maybe you just need, like, to open up your eyes to something different. Maybe you're looking at it as a limiting belief that's, like, literally limiting you from everything because you have this limiting belief. That's all it is, Jafar. It's literally a limiting belief that says, because of this, I'm not this. No. Like, it's not because of that. It's because you didn't get up and you didn't work hard. It's because you didn't get up and you didn't learn this new thing that you needed to learn in order to do this thing that you wanted to do. It's because you have 27 things on your list today and you didn't complete any of them. And you were distracted by Netflix or Instagram or your social networks or your, subhiyas. You were distracted from the vision of what you wanted to accomplish, and that's why you're not getting there.
Hard truth.
It really
you have to tell them that.
Tough conversations.
Yeah.
And by the way, most people, like, when you tell them, they look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
And then they won't realize it for, like, 3 years after, 5 years after. So it doesn't get you a lot of
Do you think there's a lot of regret in it?
And what exactly?
They take it off. You said they realize it 3 years after. So they take it off 3 years after. They realize that wasn't the problem.
I think it's self-destructive, to be honest with you. And it's not only that, it's what they're doing every day, right? So, like, if they thought that that was the thing, and then you eliminate that thing, then that excuse isn't there anymore. Just like anything. It could be a different excuse. It doesn't have to be the hijab. It could be any excuse in the world. My parents didn't give me an inheritance, so I couldn't. Okay, that's great. Like, there's, all of us have done it without that, right? Like, or I was supposed to have this business opportunity and it failed because my partnership failed and they took all my, cool. Or, man, there's like just so many things, right? It could be anything. But if the excuse was the hijab, and then you take that and you remove it, and then nothing changes.
What now?
What's the next excuse?
Yeah.
And by the way, there will always be another excuse unless that mindset shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that there's regret. I don't know how, inshallah, I'll never have to experience this or feel it or understand what that means. I feel like it would be a very difficult situation. Like, I empathize. I really do. I empathize with them. I really feel, it's not like I feel bad from a pity standpoint. It's like I feel bad because it's a limiting belief. And this person has so much capabilities, or so, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, I'm sure you have friends or family that you see like self-destructing and you're like, stop.
What are you doing?
Stop self-destructing. You're amazing. Like, you're truly amazing. Like, be amazing. Like,
Tayyib, you got off work, you got home, right?
My babies!
How do you not let the sensitive field that you're working in, which is personal injury, like, all day you're with these people that are struggling, you're with moms that are crying, you're with these siblings that are running around, and it's chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
When you get home, how do you not, like, it's so negative, like, and haram, like, the people really got hurt, but it's negative atmosphere for you, definitely. When you get home, how do you not bring that to your kids while still being able to do what, like, your motherly duties?
Yeah. When I see my kids, all I see is I'm so blessed. That's it. Like, there's no, like, I'm so blessed. I want to play with them. I want to have fun with them. I want to engage with them. Like, when I go home, and you know this, Jafar, like, I work a lot. Okay, but from like, I get home at like 5 till like they go to sleep like 8. Like, I'm all in. Fuad's all in. Like, and Fuad's all in. Habiba, like always, he's amazing. But like, when I'm with my kids, we are with them. Like, we play with them, we interact with them, we talk with them. Like, they are truly like our best friends.
You learn a lot from your best friends. What do you learn from your kids?
Oh my God, everything. I truly have like grown-up conversations with Ahmad and Ahmed in Medina. Like, say for example, I had a really tough day at work. Okay, I come home. I will lay it out to them. I will be like I literally lay it out because I need to get it out.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be negative.
That's what I mean. How do you not bring it? Because it's in your head.
I don't live in my head. If it's in my head and like consuming my mental capacity to be with my kids, I talk to my kids about it and I let it come out, because your mental capacity is all you have. So I don't care how engaged you are. If your mind isn't there, you're not engaged. I'm a firm believer in that. So like, I'll sit with them and I'll be like, this happened. Like, my client is like 15 years old and they got into a bad accident. They keep yelling at their parents because now they have a traumatic brain injury. And like, so with traumatic brain injuries come a lot of like aggression and personality changes. One of the hardest things for parents to deal with is a child with a traumatic brain injury, because they lash out on the parents a lot. It's really, really hard. And they will ask me questions like, Mama, we would never do that to you. We love you. And this. Then I said, There might be a day that that happens. And then I will tell them about, alhamdulillah, I never had a traumatic brain injury, but I wasn't the best kid in the world. And I thank my mom for holding, like not holding it against me. But I used to always talk back to my mom. And I was, I needed a cup for sure. Anyways, but like I tell them, like, that might happen, but here's why you shouldn't. Right? And here's how you can control it, because you don't have this, which is a traumatic brain injury. You have this. So like when you want to lash out, like Ahmed, when you get so mad, you need to do this. So like I take whatever negative like energy came from the day, and I use it as like an opportunity to engage and talk to my kids and teach them something from it. And then they always teach me. They always level me up. Man, like they'll drop a nugget on me and I'll just be like, D, get out of your own way. That's it. Like, it's amazing. So, like, every single day I learn something from my kids, and their kids are amazing.
Alhamdulillah, that's great. You said you're very busy, and I'm pretty sure that, like, with your busy schedule, there's that times where you can't be there like 100%. Like, to go to an event, maybe something like that.
So hard.
Do you feel any guilt when
100%. 100%. I don't know, Jafar, if anybody tells you no, they're not human. I always feel guilty, by the way. Like, always. And I talk to other moms, and they have the same guilt. It's just, it's something you have to channel, because it can't affect your ability to go, action, handle your business, do the things you need to do. But I try as much as I can not to sacrifice. And that's the reason, like, I kind of love the space that I'm in right now, because I kind of truly, like, I kill the hustler, be the CEO mentality. I'm almost there. And when you do that, you gain your time back. And you're able to dictate your time instead of your time dictating you. And it's really a cool space. I'm not 100% there, but like it's a cool space to work towards, right?
Yeah.
And it's getting much, much better. But man, I remember a time like it was bad. And I used to like cry to Fuad. And he's like, you're doing this for them. And I said, I know, but it doesn't make it feel better. Because truly, who else are we doing it for?
Yeah,
we're doing it for our kids. We're doing it for our family. But it's still really hard. So you have to learn how to control your time, and try not to sacrifice. Like, I truly feel like you don't, at this point now, obviously hindsight's 2020, but you don't have to sacrifice one or the other. I'll give you an example. When I had Medina, so she's my third, my last, and I knew she was my last. And with Imad, I had like a true maternity leave, I would say. Like, I was home, I stayed home, I worked from home for 3 months. Although I still had the firm, like I had enough attorneys, they were able to like go out, handle business. I did what I needed to do at home, but like I was home for 3 months, right? But it was just 3 months. And then Ahmad was a little bit different. The firm was in a crazy like growth expansion. There were like hardly anybody in my space that could do what I needed to do. I had to be there. A trial was starting after a month and a half of having him, and I had to be there. So like my maternity leave with Ahmad was cut short after like 6 weeks, right? With Medina, I said, I'm not sacrificing this again. But the firm is growing. I love what we're doing. I can't take my hands out of it. Again, at this point, you're trying to like kill the hustler. Yeah. Like, at that phase, you can't. You have to be like 24/7 all in. Like, in order to do this appropriately, there's a very like grit, hands-on approach, and then for an extended period of time, and then you're able to do it, and then you can be in like a good space. So I looked at Medina. I had her on a Thursday. On Saturday, I looked at her. I said, Medina, on Monday, we're going to work, girl.
Wait, you had her on Thursday?
Thursday.
So 2 days after you had Medina.
I looked at her. So we just got home. I looked at her. I said, get ready. Monday we're going to work, okay? So I set up my...
That's crazy.
Yeah, I set up a nursery in my office because here's what was going to happen. I was going to try to be home. I was not going to be there. Like, mentally, you remember I talked about mental capacity? I wasn't going to be there with her. So that is worst case. For me, my worst case scenario is being present with my kids, but not being present with my kids. That's my worst case. I know people are like, no, I want to be there, but I'm just this. For me, that's harder than not being there at all. Well, it's a very interesting, my mind is weird. But nonetheless, I looked at her and I said, if I did that, it was going to be short. Like, it was going to be probably less than Ahmed. It was probably going to be like 3 weeks, and there would be no way I was going to have to be back in the office. So I said, I want to take her with me. I want her to, her comfort zone is the office. And I want to prolong this for as long as I possibly can because I want to be by her. I want her to have me. I want her to feed. I want her to like do all of these things that I want to be the mom to Medina that I want to be. But I don't want to sacrifice everything that I'm building with the firm.
How did Fuad feel about that?
Let me remember. We should ask him. He loved it, I think. We should ask him. Sometimes I make myself also believe things that aren't true. And I do that for my mindset. So I'm going to say that he loved it because I was going to be raising her. That was like a big thing. He wants us to raise our kids. Like that was a big thing for him. Like we need to raise them. They can't be like raised by, even like the grandparents, amazing. Second option, right? But even that was like, I want them to be raised by us. I want them to instill what we have to offer in them. Because again, our generation thinks differently, feels differently than previous generations, as we talked about, you know? So I set up my whole office. It was beautiful. She had her crib in there. I had my space. We were together. Jafar, it was literally the best thing I've ever done. She was with me for a full year up until COVID. So her birthday is like March 19. COVID like came out like March 13-ish or something. She went home. I went home with her, right? For like a few months. We were all home. And then after that, she never came back to the office. But at that point, she was already like, a year and a half. Yeah. So like Medina truly got a year and a half of me, like uninterrupted.
A full year and a half.
And what came out of that experience was amazing because Medina linguistically is insane. Like the way she talks. And it's because she was sitting in my room listening to meetings. Like she would come into meetings with me. She'd sit on my lap, and we'd do our meetings. Yeah. I didn't change anything about what I was doing because Medina was there. Mm-hmm. And she became so comfortable in my office. It was like her home. So alhamdulillah, she was a good sleeper and all of that. And not like the boys. I don't know how that would have worked out. But I think it was because it just became her comfort zone. I didn't take her from a home environment to an office after a few months. If I would have did that, I think it would have failed.
It would have been harder.
It would have failed for sure.
Do you ever think about, they say hanging up the jersey and just being with the kids full time? Does that cross your mind at all?
No.
No?
The impact that we are trying to make, like Fuad and I, is far greater than just, I don't know that that's the right word, but the impact that Fuad and I are trying to make will require us not to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, integrating our kids and what we are doing and the vision of what we are trying to build and the impact that we are trying to have is huge for us. So I see this developing where our kids are even more and more integrated in what we are doing. So mind you, why it's not just Dewnya, the practicing attorney anymore, right? Like that was me for an extended period of time. Yeah. And I love that space. But in order to impact and serve and be there for my kids the way I need to, I can't be Dewnya the practicing attorney anymore that's putting in 80 hours on her laptop working files. That's not, that won't serve the purpose. So
that won't help you grow.
it won't. And like even the stuff that Fuad's doing and that I'm doing, it's all to basically create the foundational framework necessary for the companies to basically be like run themselves, build the teams, grow the divisions, empower people to grow, empower the next generation, empower our kids in whatever spaces they want to. And at that point, there's going to have so many options. And maybe they don't want to work with it. Cool. You don't have to. But whatever we do, it's like, it's pure integration. There's no work-life balance or kids work. There's none of that.
Yeah,
it's
kind
really
of all like a system within each other.
It literally is. And the values permeate and nothing.
I want to ask you about Fuad and like how important like having a husband. We said Fuad from the beginning and we never said that like Fuad is Dunya's husband. But like how important is it to have a husband, and how does he play his role while you're doing all of that? I mean, I'm gonna get him on for him to say his part of the story too.
Yeah, some girl talked about a man as like the blue unicorn. Like if I ever find the blue unicorn, then he as like it's a fictitious thing. Well, I found it. So I'm kidding. He's fine. No. Without Fuad, there's no way. None of this works. Dewnya the practicing attorney, Dewnya building the law firm, Dewnya CEO, Dewnya entrepreneur, Dewnya... None of it works. None of it. None of it. So when... why? Because I said, I don't like to sacrifice one or the other. Fuad gives me the support necessary not to sacrifice one or the other. So we are both the parents to our kids, right? Mom, dad, historical roles are mom's with the kids, dad comes home from work, mom cooks for dad, dad eats, maybe plays with the kids for a little, goes to bed, mom stays up with the kids if they wake up. Okay.
You had to find another system.
That doesn't work for this. And it was never that for us. It's what do we need? How do we get it done? How do we support each other? What's best for our kids? How can we split that up? Like, there's no like historical duties are this, historical duties are that. It's like, here are the duties. Let's get them done. Who's going to tackle this? Which one of us? And then we have our roles and we're done and we take care of business and we, you know. Without that, none of this works. By the way, somebody asked me, I think Abadar asked me, he said, when did you know like Fuad was the one? I said, simple. I live in Dearborn. Guys, historically in Dearborn, are very jealous individuals, right? They like to have their women, right? Close, not out, not whatever. They get like intimidated if like the female is like enhancing, like it bothers them. Like there's, right? When I realized very quickly Fuad was literally the least jealous person I've ever met in my life, I said, ooh, we got a chance. Because I knew myself too. Yeah. And even at that phase, I didn't know what I know now, but I knew I loved basketball. Typically, guys like basketball. Typically, you know, right? Like, so, like my hobbies, my interests, they align more with males. So even if I was gonna, whatever, anything, right? I loved football, loved watching football. Like, it's very hard to find 100 girls that want to watch football with you. So you might find 3, and then you might, you know, just all of that. So that was the moment when I realized he wasn't jealous. Then I'm like, oh, we got a chance. And then supportive. Wow, man, like And it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies, by the way. Like, probably like 2 years into our marriage, we probably like were very close to getting a divorce. Very, like, yeah, like at your face, because you would have never guessed. It wasn't easy. Like, why? Because I am who I am, he is who he is, and you're getting to know each other. You're trying to build this perfect normal for both of you. I was in law school, very occupied, very busy, newly married, like, newly married, you want to be together, but like 24/7 together doesn't work when you're like literally in law school and he has a job and your times were off and you had to study at night and like all of it. It was a lot of challenges, right? But you get through them, you get stronger, you get through the hard times so you can have amazing times. Like, people like stop at the hard time and they just stop. Like they just stop. Like, I don't know. I don't get it, but you can't just stop at the hard time. The hard time is there for a reason. Like, if it was always so easy,
it would get boring eventually.
And there's no joy.
Yeah.
Like, there's no joy at the end of it. Like, if the journey was just a skate, like wins all the time, well, what kind of journey is that? Like, for me, that's so boring.
Yeah.
I don't want to live a boring life.
Yeah. So, going back to your kids, you said that you personally went to Lebanon once. You don't even see it like a home like that. But how do you tell your kids that? How do you tell your kids that they're from Lebanon? Like, do you want them to know they're from, like, there is a place? Have they visited yet?
Okay. So, no, they haven't. We planned on it during COVID. COVID hit, and then we haven't been able to. But inshallah, our goal is this summer to take them, inshallah.
So that's important for you, for them to know there's a place they're from.
It really is. And I think that, you remember how I said the generation to generation it changes?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I know where I am, and it's like, it's in layer, right? Like, I talked about it, like, okay, I've been there a few times. Like, I don't feel like a crazy connection. Like, my sito's house is there, and like, so when she goes, and my jiddo is buried there, like, in my jiddo.
Yeah.
So like, I have that connection, but like, and we have family and stuff there, but yeah, I don't have that strong connection. They need to, because one more layer of that's gone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're very aware of that.
Very aware, because like, it's like, I don't know why, Jaffa, like, literally I have goosebumps right now, but like, one more layer, it's gone. Like, gone, like, forever gone. Like, my kids won't have it, and then their kids won't have it, and then it's literally gone.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm extra, emphasizing it now, where like my parents didn't extra emphasize it on me because they figured it's there.
Yeah.
Like, it's my home. Like,
we're gonna go.
My whole family's there. Like, for them, it was so ingrained in them that they didn't necessarily feel like they needed to ingrain it in us. Instead, they ingrained in us America, education, paths, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think we flip. And it has to be a flip. Like, there has to be some, like, give and take, or else it's going to be gone. So, like, for me, it's extra emphasis. Extra emphasis on religion. Extra emphasis on culture. Extra emphasis on... And it's counter to my default. Not the religion part, but the cultural part. But it's necessary because they will lose it.
Yeah. And
so we are like talking about it, emphasizing it. We need to take them more. Like, Fuad has culture embedded in him. He used to go to Lebanon every single year for like 15 or 16 years straight. Spend the whole summer. So like, Fuad's very culturally oriented. I'm more religiously oriented than Fuad. By the way, that clash and dynamic is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Whole nother podcast, okay?
Yeah.
But, so Fuad has that embedded in him because of how he grew up. He literally spent every summer there. I spent every summer at Camp Dearborn.
Yeah.
Best place
Big
ever.
difference. Big difference.
We didn't have a lot growing up, so we couldn't afford to go back and forth like that. Yeah. But yeah, so we definitely need to embed it in our kids. And I will like challenge and caution everyone who's in our generation who has the same story as mine. We need to keep embedding it in them. Maybe we all come together and do something to show like our backgrounds more and like embed it in our kids more, because if we don't, we're done.
One final question, and we'll wrap it up. Death is going to come at one point. In 20 years, Imad, Ahmad, and Medina are searching the web, and you're not there anymore, and they come across this episode. What do you tell them individually?
I love you. You are a superhero. And whatever space you want to be, never lose yourself in this process. And enjoy every second of the journey. And always make sure to give at every moment that you can. Mama loves you.
Thank you, Dewnya.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
That
you.
wraps it up.